Maryland Congressman Glenn Ivey is returning from El Salvador after an unsuccessful attempt to meet with Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Ivey says he was hoping for a welfare check with Abrego Garcia just over a month after Senator Chris Van Hollen also went to El Salvador and secured a meeting with the man deported from Maryland.
Now critics question who's footing the bill for these trips and why Democrats are so focused on this case. Fox 45's Jeff Abel joins us live with an update. Jeff.
Well, Congressman Glenn Ivey calls Abrego Garcia his constituent and traveled some 3,200 miles to check on his well-being, but he barely got his foot in the prison door.
We're going to keep pushing for this until it happens. Got a series of meetings set up.
Maryland Congressman Glenn Ivey was optimistic last week about his chance of seeing Kilmar Abrego Garcia, but not long after making the 3,200-mile trip to El Salvador.
We came here to visit him today, and now they're telling us we got to go all the way back to El Salvador, to San Salvador to get a permit. That's ridiculous.
The congressman had barely got his foot in the door before the prison shut him out.
You knew why we were coming, and they know we have the right to do this. So they need to just cut the crap.
Ivey is the sixth Democrat to travel to El Salvador, hoping to ensure the wellness of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Last month, Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen was allowed a meeting with Garcia, but a week later,
after a long day, we have arrived in El Salvador.
A delegation of 4 other congressional Democrats were denied entrance.
I am here because I refuse to wait for something to happen.
I think that their priorities are way out of whack, and I don't know whom they're representing by doing this stuff.
Dr. Richard Vatz believes these congressional trips to El Salvador are both misguided and expensive.
No, it is not a wise use of tax dollars.
Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen used tax dollars to fund his trip to El Salvador. A delegation of 4 congressional Democrats used private funds to pay for their trip. Congressman Glenn Ivey says tax dollars were not used to fund his trip, but he's now vowing to keep watch on tax dollars spent in El Salvador.
Not just a right, but an obligation to make sure that the American taxpayer dollars are being spent in the right way.
And I think the Democrats are hurting themselves politically, and they're not doing the right thing. And I think that they ought to reconsider where their emphases are and where their priorities are.
While the congressman did fail to secure a meeting with Abrego Garcia, he says his trip was still successful in keeping the pressure on the White House. We're live. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
I'm Kai Jackson. Thank you for watching. Here's another video to watch. Also, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel.